7, 365. The fantasy season never dies. Welcome to Every Day is Draft Day. Presented by Champions Round.
What is up, everyone? Happy Thursday. Welcome to the latest edition of Every Day is Draft Day. I am your host, Dan Turner. Joining me, as always, with that sweet, sweet jersey in the background, Steffi Smalls. What's up, Steph?
What's up? I know. And it's funny because when I record a little bit more during the day, it's like you can totally tell there's a window right there. So I haven't entirely figured out how we're setting this room up. And then I used a stud finder, but there was no stud. And then I still got a stud. So there's some things that need to get figured out. But we're in a better place where I'm actually not recording from random places like my floor at a coffee table or in the car, wherever it usually is.
Yeah. Progress.
Yes, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Yes.
All right. So
what are we going to talk about today, Dan?
We're going to talk about some breakout players.
Love it.
Breakout. Steph and I are going to be discussing some breakout players in fantasy that we both like. So as always, I will be going first because that's the rule around here at Every Day is Draft. I will go first in everything for the rest of my life.
I don't think I've ever gone first, have I?
You've never gone first?
No.
Not once.
I've never wanted.
Nope, that's fine. We're good. We're good. All right. So the first player I want to talk about today is Zach Wilson, the quarterback of the New York Jets. Wilson had a okay year last year. He wasn't obviously the best, but I think that he was a little bit underrated as well. 2,300 yards, 9 TDs, 11 interceptions. So it wasn't great. So I think everyone's always already like, well, it's the Jets, so obviously they messed the pick up and he's ruined forever. And I just don't agree. I think that the Jets made a lot of really good moves this offseason in order to help Wilson out, from improving the offensive line to drafting Garrett Wilson to pair him with Elijah Moore and Corey Davis to drafting Breece Hall as well to go with Michael Carter, to signing CJ Uzomah, who's a really good underrated tight end. So, the Jets offense, if you just take the Jets name away from it and just look at their offense, it's actually, a really solid offense all the way around. So, if Wilson is going to be that guy, he has to perform this year, and I think he will. The Jets have given him all the pieces that he needs to be a solid fantasy quarterback. I'm not saying, he couldn't be a quarterback one, but he's definitely, I think, a solid quarterback two in super flex.
Yeah.
At this point, and that's where I expect him to land this year.
And this is the cheapest. Like, one of the things, and I feel like you and I have talked about this relentlessly, is now is the time to get in on those second-year quarterbacks if you can, because if they do hit, this is the cheapest you are ever going to get them again. So right now, while you can, you go and you get Wilson, you get Lawrence, you get guys that have the talent, and there's a reason why they were drafted where they were, and their situations improved. And I think that at least they showed flashes, and some things probably was completely out of their hands. And especially the Jets, even if the Jets don't have as good of a season as they want, maybe record wise, I think this is going to be one of those teams that's staying in games. Like, they're annoying. They're going to be like the Detroit Lions last year, where you're not just going in there and crushing them anymore. Like, they're giving you a run for your money. They're beating a couple solid teams on their way to do it, and they're starting to put the pieces all together. And I think I totally agree with you that Zach Wilson's one of those guys.
Well, thank you.
Yes, that's a good one. Yes.
I appreciate it.
Which is funny because I was very low on him and Lawrence, and then suddenly I flipped the switch, which the guy that I'm going to talk about now, I actually flipped the switch on as well. This is probably my most recent change of opinion, and that's in Michael Pittman. Entering his third year, he probably would have finished higher than that wide receiver 17 in PPR leagues, but the Colts, they were 29th in pass play rate, 27th in pass attempts, and just straight up, Matt Ryan just historically has done better supporting, an alpha wide receiver. Yeah. I don't think it's outside of Pittman's ability to finish in the top 12, top 10. He is, I actually didn't take a look at his ADP or where he was going, but I mean, He was 8th in target share, 3rd in route participation, only behind Kupp and Chase. He was putting the numbers out there. It was just that his quarterback, I think it's the quarterback. He needs the quarterback just to elevate him, that just a little bit more that we like to see in fantasy. So I'm pretty all in on Pittman. Especially, I know I just got him pretty late. I would have to check, but he's definitely someone that I am eyeballing.
Absolutely. I love that pick. I think that a lot of people are exaggerating the demise of Matt Ryan as someone that can support a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. I mean, the guy almost threw 4,000 yards last year and had 20 touchdowns. And there really isn't, another receiver on the roster that's going to command the amount of target share that Michael Pittman is. So I think, and that's another reason why people like Alec Pierce too. Everyone's drafting Alec Pierce because they think, he's going to be the number 2 there because there isn't really any competition.
Which I think is still a good call also, but at the end of the day, he's a rookie, and Pittman's numbers there's really no reason that you wouldn't be putting this guy in a position, to get downfield. He's 4th in contested catches. I mean, I don't know what else you really want from a guy. He put the numbers up, but again, kind of came up short. And obviously they picked up a lot of the slack there with the running game too. But I think that was more because Wentz kind of lacked what they needed to be able to get that passing game going to where I think the Colts could be. So I think the Colts people are writing off a little bit too early. I think that they have the offensive weapons that they need to still be successful. And Matt Ryan, again, he's still good. No, is he starting to fall off as a fantasy quarterback? Yes. But he's consistent, and he's exactly what you want for a franchise like this.
Yeah. No one's saying that Matt Ryan is going to go ahead and be the 2015, 2016 Matt Ryan when he threw almost for 5,000 yards and 38 touchdowns. That's obviously not the Matt Ryan that the Colts are going to be getting, but he's definitely enough of the Matt Ryan left where he can support Michael Pittman as a legitimate, fantasy option. And where he's going in drafts, I think I agree with you. I think his upside is a wide receiver 1. I think
now I want to look at what his ADP is. I should have looked that up.
Go for it. Look it up.
While you go and
I'll talk about my next guy while you look it up.
Okay. All
right. So the next guy that I want to talk about is someone that was really high on last year when he got drafted. It's a second-year running back.
Ew, are we going to agree this entire freaking episode? Probably.
It's Kenneth Gainwell, actually.
Oh, maybe not. Go ahead.
No, because I was really high on Gainwell. He was the next in line. As one of those really good players from Memphis, following Antonio Gibson and Tony Pollard. And it just never came together for him last year in the Eagles' offense. I think that he only had 68 attempts for a little less than 300 yards, but he had 5 TDs. So his TDs were actually pretty good. I think that he's the best pass catching back on the roster. I think that the Eagles have soured a little bit on Miles Sanders. Personally, a little. And I think at this point in their respective careers, that Gainwell is the overall better back over Sanders. So I think with the kind of offense that Nick Sirianni wants to run, especially with all the upgrades at receiver that we got with AJ Brown, I think that that's really going to help. It's really going to help Gainwell. I think that he can be kind of that, not to be that kind of player like the Nyheim Hines plus of the offense that Sirianni wants to run. I think that's definitely something, especially in PPR leagues, that's going to get you some good points week to week. I'm not saying he's going to be a running back 1 or anything like that, but I think that as the season progresses, he's definitely going to take more of the work away from Miles Sanders until the end of the year when he becomes the lead back. And the Eagles are always going to they're never going to have a true number 1 guy or a workhorse back like a Zeke or something like that. But I think he's going to get enough of the work where he's going to be viable as a fantasy running back.
And I think we've seen too, just looking at the game itself, at the end of the day, you still need to be able to establish the run. It is turning into a passing league, and that's great. And they have all the weapons, and you have a mobile quarterback. But, you even saw this with the Bills. They struggled because they could not establish the run until they got Singletary started, 3 weeks before the season ended. And I think that the Eagles recognize that, and having a weapon in game, it's just getting him started and seeing how you're spreading the ball out. And I think Sanders, he didn't even score a touchdown last year. I mean, this guy is and it stinks because I think he is a really great talent. And unfortunately, sometimes this sort of thing just happens, and it's going to happen to Miles Sanders. And I mean, I don't care that much because it's the Eagles, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So Pittman is going as wide receiver 21.
Wow.
So, and that, right now that's following Michael Thomas, who, reports came out about, and trying to see if there's any other names that stand out to me. I think we see him probably move up a little bit, but again, like, it's not without his, he could definitely, it's within his reach to get into that top 12. Absolutely, without a doubt. Speaking of, I'll stay on the Michael Thomas thing. I don't know if, everyone defines breakout a little bit different. So Jameis Winston, he played the year with basically no weapons. I mean, he could not have lacked pass catchers any more than he did. They tried to put Band-Aids. It didn't work. He was still managing to get over 17 points per game, which is kind of remarkable. And if you put it on the year, it would have put him somewhere at QB 14, QB 15. Now he potentially has Michael Thomas, before this just came out after I did all this research, whatever. But they also have Jarvis Landry, who I love that. I love that fit there. I think it's fantastic. And Chris Olave, which I think you could lean into him. There's a strong argument for him to become that wide receiver 1 there, which I also think helps Winston, because then you have a very great deep threat there. And he finally has weapons. And he's also, his current ADP is QB 24 in Dynasty, QB 21 in redraft. I might lean more redraft than I would Dynasty. This might be more of a redraft play. But he finished QB 33, didn't play after week 8, and he's back at OTAs. He looks like he's moving great, and we've seen, especially the quarterback position, they come back much quicker, much easier from tearing the ACL, and he finished the league with the 6th highest passer rating. The guy still has it, and he led all quarterbacks last year in fantasy points per dropback. So I'm a huge fan of him as a late round QB2. The other guy I was going to talk about, which I won't go into, but guys like him, guys like Davis Mills, honestly, guys like Daniel Jones, those are guys that are going really late that have a ceiling that's way beyond where they're going, Yeah.
I have Jameis Winston in the exact same situation that Zach Wilson is in. Everyone is kind of writing him off because Sean Payton isn't there anymore, but the Saints did a lot to upgrade their offense. They drafted that left tackle. They drafted Trevor Penning. They got Olave. They got Landry. They completely rebuilt their wide receiver core. So he's actually throwing to NFL caliber guys now and not Marquez Callaway. Yeah. So and Taquan Smith. So I think like you said, he did great with having basically nothing. To go
and
on.
I think he's the type of guy that fights for it too, which is awesome. And I think, and even when we did those mock drafts, I loved the fit for Olave to the Saints. I did it in one of them. I was all in on that. I think it's a perfect landing spot, and it gives Winston a fantastic weapon. And who knows what'll happen with Michael Thomas? It's starting to get a little interesting now. I don't. All of a sudden, it's the hope is that he's ready for training camp. It doesn't sound very no one's sounds very sure that that's going to happen. So it'll be interesting. But I think they did a good job. Bringing on Landry. I think they have enough weapons there still. Kamara, I don't know what's going on with the legal stuff. I haven't looked into it recently, but he always does better. The numbers are better when Jameis was there. So that's probably why you saw him not do as well when he was gone. I mean, the Saints just kind of, it was scary. It got scary at one point. It was what is happening right now? This is not the Saints, but another team like the Colts. I wouldn't write them off either. They're still going to be competitive. They always are. And they have a good roster there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think even if Michael Thomas were, not to be ready, I think now they have the pieces in place where Winston can still do well, with Olave and Landry, as opposed to, Michael Thomas going out and then you have basically, wide receivers 3s and 4s that you're throwing to for the entire season. So I think the Saints either way are better equipped for Winston to be a productive fantasy player.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it. I'm talking myself more and more into it. And then this is why people think I'm crazy, but this is why I end up doing a 0 QB almost method, because these guys, you don't even know if you spend high picks and then one of them gets hurt or both of them get hurt, because that happens very frequently. You kind of screw yourself there. So I like to take one of my guys early. And then when it comes to that next spot, I'm okay waiting a little bit, because I'd rather throw some darts on 3 guys later on and stack up the rest of my roster than, just totally bite myself in the ass by the end.
I will never understand drafting like a Patrick Mahomes in round 3 in redraft. Never.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's just not. I will continuously take Kirk Cousins. Like, I don't care. Like, he finishes QB 11 literally every year, so it's fine. Like, I'm good. Like, I will take Matt Ryan. I'm the person that will confidently take Matt Ryan.
Brady. Brady goes late too. No one drafts Brady. It's crazy. Right. Yeah, that's a good one. I like Winston.
Oh my God, we're definitely gonna like all of each other. Actually, you won't like my next one.
All right, good. All right, so for the last one for this show, I'm gonna go with.
Wait, I have one more.
I know.
Oh, for you.
No one first, then you. Now me, then you. Then my last one.
Fine. Okay, fine.
How it works. Okay, so my last one is also a second-year running back who unfortunately had a really bad injury last year and wasn't able to play, and that's Travis Etienne. He's very polarizing, coming into this year. Is he going to be healthy? Is he fully healed from his injury? So I think that he again is being written off as well. A Lisfranc injury is obviously nothing to sneeze at, especially in a running back. But I think and everyone was blaming his first round grade on the previous coaching staff being like they didn't know what they were doing. But he was a legit talent in college. It's been a couple of years and people seem to be forgetting that, he was a legit prospect. And I understand the worry about him, but, he is playing with, his quarterback from college. He did score 78 touchdowns at Clemson. It's not like he forgot how to play football. He's a great receiver out of the backfield. He's a really decisive runner. He's a patient guy, which is something that a lot of rookie running backs aren't. So he's going to wait for the offensive line to open up holes for him, and stuff like that. He's a legit 3-down back, and James Robinson probably isn't going to be ready to start the year because he's dealing with his own, really bad injury. So I just think where Travis Etienne is going to be drafted, I think he has that ceiling of being a running back 1, and he's going nowhere near that in any kind of draft. So
yeah, I love him. I had him everywhere, and it's so funny because I didn't realize it till this season ended, and you're going to make room because you're doing rookie drafts and stuff. And it's like I had 2 rosters. No, I had 2 rosters that had Dobbins, Gus Bus, and Etienne, and then I had one that had Dobbins, and like I got screwed before the season started. But it's nice that I have those players back, thank God. Mm-hmm. But I'm still drafting them. I think that I totally agree with you on everything. I don't know why people are making the assumption that he will not have a role. I think that if he is ready to come back, sure, will they maybe ease him in, or there going to be bumps because it's still a very new offense. It has a new staff. Things were basically a circus there. And it's going to take a while for them to get a rhythm. But again, like you have to be able to run the ball in this game. And so it is what it is. He's
going off right now at running back 26 off the board in PPR leagues. That's a high-end running back 3. I'm definitely taking him at running back 3 prices because he can have a legit running back 1 season.
Right. No 100%. Yeah. So my guy is also a running back. He is going as RB 18 right now. He finished the year as RB 19, RB 14 the last 8 weeks of the season, and it's David Montgomery, some guy that I cannot get enough of because he's falling. I just got him in my most recent draft at the back end of the 6th round, and I get there's the concern because I think the concern comes from massive Justin Fields fans, which I like. I don't not like Justin Fields. I just think that they can support Justin Fields in a way by establishing a very strong run game that it takes pressure off of him. And I think that's what they will do. I think he will be that, his prominent role probably will end up being as a 3rd down back. I think that his role could probably expand past that, but he's going to be very heavily in this offensive scheme. They have a new offensive coaching staff that has historically done that. He's also entering a contract year. So if I'm going to be doing my best to do whatever I can also to get the bag, even the year, 2020, he had over 1,000 rushing yards. He could obviously definitely get back to that. And I am excited to see what he does this year because I think we see him I mean, he could be a top 10 running back. I don't know why he couldn't.
Apparently that's a hot take. People forget he's only 24 years old.
He's like really young and like I
think overall, like everyone is just it's cool to hate on the Bears for everything because they only have two pass catchers, and everyone either loves Justin Fields or absolutely thinks he's going to be absolutely garbage in the league. So it's just easy to go in on David Montgomery as well. But I agree. I think, with where he's going, he's the guy. Yeah, Khalil Herbert is gonna, mix in once in a while there, and he did good, in relief last year. But it's Montgomery's backfield.
Yeah.
So you can't really say that about a lot of guys nowadays. The league is definitely going towards more, running backs by committee. So to get a guy that's going to get a majority of, the carries in that offense is something that, it is valuable. So I think that you're spot on with what you're saying about him.
Mm-hmm. And I really do. I like, running backs on teams where there's a lot of question marks around the wide receiver room, and there's a lot of question marks around, the quarterback, but the O-line is not terrible. There's no reason for me to not believe that someone coming off of the last 8 weeks of the season at RB14 that's had 200 more rushing yards the year before, there's no reason that he cannot, get back to those numbers, if not better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the loss of Allen Robinson is bad, but it's not as bad as people think because he wasn't really playing that last year anyway.
Yeah.
I think Justin Fields is going to improve. How much he's going to improve is up for debate, but it's his second year. He has a better offensive staff around him now to help him develop. So I think the Bears, aren't going to be good, in real life NFL, but for fantasy, they're going to surprise a couple of people with some of their players.
Absolutely. And again, we say this all the time. Like, you don't need to be a good team to be have good fantasy players. We see it all the time. Like, this doesn't matter what ends up happening. I think the Bears could end up surprising people in general. It's just going to be, again, this is one of those teams. How are you piecing it all together?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's even a benefit, honestly, because everyone's like, besides, everyone always mentions, Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet as his options, but no one ever mentions that David Montgomery's there, and he's also going to be, he's going to be a top 3 option in that offense. So that's something that's obviously very valuable for fantasy.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, that will do it for this episode of Every Day is Draft Day. Join us next week where we're going to have some more fun shows. We have a bunch of content coming out that we all hope that you watch. We have Daily Dozens, which Steph hosts with our own Jason. She has Smalls Talks Balls. She's busy. She has like 16 shows a day.
We have Hot Takes and Pancakes coming out next week. It's going to be a blast. We might review some frozen breakfast food while we just yell at each other about hot takes. We don't know how it's going to go. We did our first one, but it was not a morning episode. We just kind of rolled with it. It was a blast, though. I went back and watched the episode. A really, really fun, good episode. And if you're interested about any of the teams, like the Bears, I just had Adam Brake on. We talked a little bit about that running back room. My 32-team preview. I'm in the AFC North now. I'm taking a break for the rest of the week because I'm flying through these teams. So I'll be back next week. And then, every day is draft day and all the good stuff. Check out Daily Dozen. And that's it.
Sign up for our Discord and be aware of all the fun stuff.
It's so fun in there.
It's a lot of fun. We have a good time. You should be there if you're not.
Yes,
all right. We'll have a wonderful holiday weekend. Don't get stuck in traffic. Stay safe. And we'll see you next week.
See you guys.